Okay, good morning, everybody. Get this set up right here. And perhaps we'll go this way. Okay, good morning, and welcome to our first Zoom room. I'm the only participant on here. I understand this is maybe not the best time for everyone. We are going to, I'll mention this right now, and you'll get an announcement. In the announcement tab later on this morning, our next Zoom room will be tomorrow, Monday. That's going to be for week 2. Rather than have it at the end, I think you will be better served by having our Zoom room on Monday. Now, given that tomorrow is a holiday, I have yet to decide what time might be best for everyone. It'll most likely be either earlier in the day, in the morning, before festivities start, or perhaps later in the evening after things are sort of put away. I do want to certainly, more than anything else, recognize that what the holiday actually is. I won't spend much time on this now. It won't take a lot of time, but I will mention that it is Memorial Day, which is a day that we set aside in this country to really honor our veterans, and especially those veterans who have passed on, and especially those veterans who died while in the service of protecting my rights and your rights and mine and your freedom. Certainly want to make that the focus of the day, if you will. It seems in this country, not everyone, but certainly there's a concern that we've taken many of our holidays, and tomorrow being Memorial Day, especially one where we've turned it into a big car sale or big mattress sale or big department store sale or something along those lines, and we've perhaps lost what is really important about the day. I think we should certainly enjoy ourselves on that day, enjoy the freedom that others have fought and died for. I'm not saying we shouldn't have. Of course, everyone has their own opinion. It's a sort of the kickoff to summer. You think of going to the beach if you're nearby, or having cookouts, getting together with family. And there's certainly, in my view, nothing wrong with that, as we do want to embrace the gifts that we have in this country that most countries, frankly, many at least, do not have. Certainly some in Western Europe, people are still free to worship as they please and have their opinions heard and at least spoken. But many countries, people are not able to voice their opinion freely without fear of retribution from the government, or many countries, people are not free to worship as they would like. Many countries, industrialized countries, even Saudi Arabia and others, and nothing against Saudi Arabia, but I don't want to live there because it's my understanding that the only religion that is legally practiced there without many restrictions is Islam, and God bless those people for worshiping as they wish. But for me, I want to follow my Christian religion, and I want to be very grateful and show my gratitude to those who have over the hundreds of years have fought and died, so that I may be able to do that as well as you. So we'll meet on our class live tomorrow. I won't take your, obviously, like I said, the entire day, but I think it might be best for us. Some of you may not have to work tomorrow. Give you a little extra time, and maybe get a chance to get on here. That's up to you. Certainly, this is being recorded. Make sure it is. Yes, it is. Um, and tomorrow's will also be recorded. So if you're such that you prefer not to engage in any activity tomorrow from the Zoom room and you want to just honor our fallen veterans, you are not obligated. You will not be penalized. Both and all Zoom rooms are recorded. You can watch them at your leisure anytime during the week that is the current week. So this is week 1. We don't have a lot of time for recording for this one. It's another reason to do these on earlier in the week. So tomorrow, Monday, so you'll have the entire week to watch the Zoom room recording, and you'll get 2 extra credit points. Now the extra credit points work like this. You're not penalized if you don't watch the class live, if you don't attend, or if you don't watch the Zoom room. So if you choose not to, that you will not lose any points. However, if you do choose to watch the recording or join us live, you can earn 2 extra credit points. It's extra credit points are pretty cool because although they're just 2 the points, it's just on top of whatever else you've earned. So there's it's a bonus, if you will. So let me. All right, there we go. So I won't spend any more time on that. But I am grateful to be teaching the class. I'm getting to know many of you, and I know that there's some trepidation and some angst when you talk about statistics. I can assure you, as your humble professor, that I have felt that anxiety as well. And when I've taken statistics, nevertheless, I have had some wonderful professors get me through that so that I am in a position now that I can help get you through that. So the good news is this is statistics for the social sciences, which was the first course in stats I took at another college so many, many years ago, another lifetime ago. And if you're interested in the social sciences, which I believe everyone in this class is majoring in something in the social science, whether it's psychology or leadership, whatever it may be. I don't think there's any math majors in this class. It makes it real for you. It brings the statistics into an application so that it starts to make sense. And as the course goes on, you will hopefully notice that, as I did many years ago. We started out this week, I think, with a couple of very good discussion questions, just talking about different kinds of data and variables, whether nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, and what that all means. Some of your, I'll say, some of your discussion responses weren't exactly where I would hope they would be somewhere down the road. Nevertheless, you will not be penalized per se if your answers aren't exactly right. But I say that now, and I'll probably put it in the announcements as well, because I want you to keep an open mind. I don't want you to think that you got everything exactly right. Some of you are right on target. Some of you just not off too much, but a little bit, that you may want to keep an open mind and reconsider how you might measure, for instance, job satisfaction. Certainly that wouldn't be a nominal variable, but would it be ratio? Would it be interval? There was some differences there. And so again, we're just getting started. So I'm not here to beat anybody down by any stretch of imagination. We're here to learn. I want to share one of the things I want to share with you. We're going with what's called a growth mindset in this class, because I know that not for everyone, but for some people, statistics can be, again, very make people feel a little uneasy, at least. So I don't want that to be the case here. We're going to get through this. Think of yourself as a lifelong learner. I'm approaching this with each of you, maybe at different, or probably are, at least a little bit, sometimes various different stages of your understanding of statistics. But fear not, we'll move forward. We will get you through this, and you'll come out with a better understanding of statistics on the other end of the 6 weeks here. So anyway, it's a good start. I'll say right now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. I myself did not design this course. I haven't designed any of the courses that I've taught, and I've been with Central Christian College now over 2 years. And I've been in education for well over 2 decades. And I've been around the block, if you will. So while I have not designed the courses that I teach, I will say this unequivocally. Whoever designed them knew what they were doing, or the team probably that designed all the courses knew what they were doing. So you can rest assured that the course design, the curriculum, if you will, that you're getting is very good, and it's paced the right way, and it is ordered the right way to sort of what's the word I'm looking for, to um, appeal to or make it palatable for your learning experience, for the students' learning experience. A lot of thought clearly went into this. So I'm going to get into it a little bit. I won't keep you on here very long. I know that with just one person, it gets a little tough to watch. But I do want to, before I go on, I will mention either a scripture somewhere in this recording that you can use to get your extra credit in the message tab. You must watch the entire recording and then give me the scripture or the whatever message. It's usually a scripture that I say this is our sort of our secret way for you to earn points. You will then message me in the message tab, and then if you share the scripture or the secret code that I give you, then you will earn the 2 points. Not a problem. But I just want to start off here with PowerPoint slide, which are very good. I won't go through the entire thing, but we're talking about quantitative research strategies. Now, there is a different research strategy called qualitative, which we're not worried about that right now. What we're working on right now is quantitative, which means to quantify something, which means to sort of give it a number. People sometimes say to me with a question, how long will you be, or how much longer until you get home, honey, on the phone, right? It won't be long. Well, it won't be long. What does that mean? What's not long to you may be long to me. So sometimes I'll respond, sometimes jokingly, sometimes directly. Can you quantify that for me? What does long mean? So the long is ambiguous and requires interpretation. But when I ask you to quantify it, and this applies to our lecture, 15 minutes is 15 minutes for you. It's 15 minutes for me. There's no ambiguity there with 15 minutes. You understand that? So that's one of the things that statistics help us do, because people have opinions. Even looking at facts, they can have different opinions. I won't get into this whole thing, but people can look at the same facts and come up with two different truths, if you will, or two different opinions. The fact of a bottle being, a 16-ounce bottle having 8 ounces of water in it, someone could say it's half full. Someone could say it's half empty. Both true. But if I say that 16-ounce bottle has 8 ounces of fluid in it, I know exactly how big the bottle is, how much fluid's in it, and those kind of things. And again, that's half full, half empty. Both could mean the same thing, just a different interpretation. I hope that makes sense to you. So again, to say, most people don't like introductory courses in statistics. Okay, most people who? Most people in Kansas, most people in the United States, most people worldwide, most psychology students, most mathematical students. I don't know. So now we're going to quantify this. Most. Okay. Which students are we measuring? Are we measuring students at one college? Are we measuring students across the country? Well, again, if we want to measure students across the country, we can't possibly have the time and resources to ask every student in America, every college student in America, what their opinion is. So we get a random sample. We'll get into that a little bit later to make sure that every person would have an equal opportunity to get chosen. That way we can say, okay, we surveyed 6,000 students, 6,000 college students in America, and we found out that most of them, not most of them, we found out that 68% of them don't appreciate or don't like an introductory course in statistics. Okay, now is that most? Yes, more than half, but it's not 90%. And again, if everyone's had an equal, then you get into, okay, how did you choose these people? How many males compared to females? How many were adult students? How many were traditional students? How many were white? How many were black? How many were Asian? All those things come into play, which matters a lot. And those are the things more that you're going to, I think, take away, especially the first part of this course. Quantitative research is interested in the nature of relationships among variables. Okay, so what is the relationship among college students and statistics, for example? Okay. The other thing, and I alluded to this already, as you can see in the slide here, quantitative statisticians or researchers are interested in whether their discoveries are generalizable. So what that means is this: if I take that sample, is it a true random sample, so that I can, the word we use is generalize that to the population at large. So, or is it just generalizable to students east of the Mississippi or west of the Mississippi? How can I generalize this? And it's important, we want to be able to generalize it to the population we're studying, or to as big of a population as we can. Otherwise, the study only pertains in the extreme to those people that we studied. And that's a big deal in statistics. And sometimes it's very hard to get a random sample that we can generalize, because sometimes we're studying things that are so small. I was listening earlier today, because I'm a geek, to a researcher who was studying the relationship between the genetic relationship between people with autism and people who are prodigies. A prodigy is like a child who can play the piano or a violin, or do outrageous math, beyond what even very intelligent adults can do, and they just pine for that. This researcher found that there was a relationship genetically, because a lot of people have siblings, or even first cousins, perhaps, where there is one child has autism, one child is a prodigy. So she started to look at that. So it's hard to generalize that, though, because the population is very small. There's not a whole lot of prodigies out there. There's a growing population of kids with autism, or people with autism, but there is very few child prodigies, or prodigies, if you will. All right. So you look at variables, okay, and this is something that we've gotten into a little bit more. So I'm going to kind of flip through these slides. We look at how one variable might affect another variable. So let's look at a child who's misbehaving. Okay, this is something that many of us can relate to, because we're parents, or we're aunts or uncles, and we've seen children misbehave. Well, because children, they're learning how to live life and learning how to get along. So we want to see how a parenting intervention strategy affects that child's behavior. So how does variable A impact variable B? So we look at, okay, Billy keeps interrupting the adult conversation, and that's something that I don't want to have happen. If it's once or twice, I mean, again, this you may or may not want that to happen. I don't know. Once or twice, someone says that's acceptable, but he does it about every 3 minutes. This has been going on now for 45 minutes. So I'm going to implement a strategy, or put an intervention in place, and we're going to see if that changes the interval of Billy's interrupting this conversation. It may not change it at all. It may reduce it, which would be the desired result, or it may increase it. Going in, we want to go with no preconceived notions. In essence, we sort of do, but we want to frame our studies so that we're an open book. So, how does one variable affect another? Okay, so my intervention might be, well, I suspect that Billy wants attention. So you could think of, any number of interventions. So I'm going to stop the adult conversation I'm having, and I'm going to talk to my friend or family member who's there and say, I'm going to take a 5-minute break from our very important conversation to give my Billy my complete undivided attention. After I've done that for 5 minutes, I'm going to explain to him that now it's our time to talk, and I'm going to give him something specific that he can do. Okay, so there's a few variables. I may have even oversold that, and we're going to see how that works. So let's backtrack to keep this simple, because I went too far ahead. So rather than so Billy keeps interrupting, so I am going to tell him that if he interrupts me one more time, he's going to have let's say Billy's 5. He's going to go have to sit in timeout or the thinking chair for 5 minutes. Okay, so we see if that works. Okay, so maybe telling him that works, and he doesn't interrupt anymore. He finds something else, some other way to entertain himself. All right. Okay, so we look. Okay, so intervention A worked. Okay, so the independent variable, and this gets some people confused, is how I change the dynamic. So the independent variable in this situation is my telling Billy that he's at risk to go to timeout. Then we see how that impacts the dependent variable, which is my conversation with the other adult. So did the independent variable, my intervention with Billy, allow me to have an uninterrupted conversation with the other adult? Okay, and we measure that. Did it help or did it not? If it did, okay, good. That's something that we're going to keep in mind. Maybe it increased it because maybe Billy says, "Well, I'll show you." I don't know, So, well, that didn't work, or maybe it didn't change anything at all. So then the next thing in this case would be, okay, we're actually going to implement the timeout. Okay, Billy, now you must go sit in the timeout chair or the thinking chair for 5 minutes, so that you know that, okay, well, that's not any fun, so I won't do that again. So then if that works, okay, then that's something else. Okay, now the independent variable now becomes the timeout chair, the thinking chair. The dependent variable remains my adult conversation or my conversation with the other adult that is now uninterrupted. So that's going to be what we measure, okay? So we look at the size of the relationships among the variables and the probability that the results are generalizable. Okay, so could I say, if let's say that the timeout worked, could I generalize that? Not very well, because I've only got one group, and I've only tried it one time. To make something generalizable, I need to get a bigger group or bigger sample, or what and down the road we call that a bigger N, which means group. It's just it's jargon. Don't be afraid of that. N, okay? N means number, bigger number of people, bigger group. Okay, fine. And I would have to also implement that independent variable many times. And the fact of the matter is, I think common sense tells us that if we did that, we got to find a way to do it with fidelity, so that it's the same. That include, and again, this gets into some deep things. That's why stats is not all that easy. Okay, include, tone, and is it a boy or a girl? Is it a man or woman in the adult conversation? What time of day is it? Is Billy eaten, and all these kind of things. So, and then if we do that and we say, okay, we can generalize that because it has an effectiveness of 80% of the time this worked. Okay, so we can generalize that. So it's probably good. The timeout probably works most of the time, and then we have to make sure it's done with fidelity. Maybe it didn't work. If it only worked 25% of the time, we'd say, well, that's not a really strong relationship, is it? And we're talking about relationships here. We're not necessarily even talking about causes at this point. We sort of are, but I want to put that on the back burner for now. So, and this happens. a lot of times, research does not bear the fruit that you think it might bear, and that's okay because now you've learned, like Edison learned something that doesn't work, if you will. Okay. Yeah. So the size of the relationship. Okay. So when I said like 68% or 25%, that's um, kind of simple. We look at um, the percentage, of course, as I mentioned, it goes even deeper than that because there's a margin of error. We try and get things, 90 to 95% if we're going to really generalize them and or count on them, if you will. We can generalize, it could be negative, but we say 90 to 95% probability. And we don't really prove anything with statistics. We say there's a probability, okay? The example they give here, the difference in average scores between males and females on the SAT, and the correlation between IQ test and grade point average, and then the probability, the results are generalizable. Sorry. It might be interesting to look at this correlation between scores on an IQ test and grade point average, because oftentimes, as IQ scores go higher, you assume grades would go higher, but research does not bear that out. People with IQs between like 115 and 130, which is not considered gifted typically, generally get pretty good grades because they have cognitive ability and they have sort of a drive most. And when you get IQs above 130 a little bit, then 135, 140, 145, and 145 is very bright. That's 3 standard deviations above the norm. That's stats down the road for you. Don't worry about that too much right now. It seems that while they have the cognitive ability to do very well, sometimes the material doesn't interest them, so they won't produce. They don't feel the need to prove themselves to anyone, and sometimes kids, even adults with that kind of an IQ, just simply don't care or rebel against grades. They don't, they you can't challenge them enough sometimes, and they lose interest in. And even if it is challenging, if it's not something they are interested in, they will set that aside, even though it's, or they not completely set aside, but not pay as much attention to that, be happy to get a B, and then go and study something else that's more interesting to them. So going through the rest of I hope that you've read this. I'm sure you did. It's a good PowerPoint slide. The other reading material is also very good. I'm not going to keep you on here more than this time, but I do want to mention, keep an eye on the announcements tab. You have my information. The best way to get me is through the message tab. If you have a question or a concern or whatever have you, reach out through the message tab. I check that every day, at least once, and most days several times. Whenever I get like a little downtime between a meeting or a client or class, I just go in and see if anyone's put anything there, because I want to make sure that you don't feel like you're out there in cyberspace, all by yourself. You're not. I'm here for you, and especially with a class like stats, I want you to understand that I'm going to support you and help you get to where you need to be. So the message tab is the best. You have my email address as well. I'm not saying you can't use it, but I get so many emails. I've had the unfortunate experience of having an email from a student get like buried so far down there that I missed it for a period of time, and the student didn't get the answer that they were looking for in a timely manner. Not to mention that when I see something in the message tab, it has your name on it. It's in this course. It's going to be someone from this course with your name, so I know exactly who it is in email, because I don't know everyone's email handle or address, whatever you call it. I don't necessarily want to jump on that right away. I'll be looking for those because I get a lot of spam, like I'm sure many of you do, or probably all of you do. So that also doesn't sort of catch my eye. Of course, now you have my cell phone number as well. You can call, but it's best to text. If you want to speak to me, by all means, I'll be happy to. Text me that you'd like to set up a time that we can talk, because if you just call, there's like if I got a call right now, I wouldn't take the call, because I'm with this, or if I'm with a client, I won't take a call, but I'll look at a text and we can schedule a time to speak if you want to speak directly on the telephone, which is absolutely fine. We'll do that at least one time. All of us, I'll reach out to you at least one time in the next few weeks. So we're going to end it here. We'll go. It's a week 1, so we're going to go with Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And I'm in South Florida right now. We're getting a big hit from the tropical storm Albert, which is already here. In the season, it's not even June yet. It's not going to impact us as directly. It is going to impact the panhandle of Florida and Mississippi and Alabama. It looks like they're going to get hit pretty hard tomorrow afternoon sometime. So I'm keeping those folks in prayer. I invite you to do the same. So our Bible scripture is Genesis 1:1 for week 1. So we'll end it here. I wish you all the best. I'm looking forward to working with you and continuing to work with you. This is the end of week 1, so like another 5 weeks together. So keep faith and God bless.